Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. If we could have roll call.
Carlson. Here. Hertak. Here. Clendenin.
Here.
Henderson. Vieira. Here. Miranda. Here. And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
All right, let's go. Let's do some housekeeping. Yes, sir.
All right, Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Good evening, council members. We do have a few items to address, but for item number 2, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission, and then I'll come back and clear the rest.
Did you want to know motion to open the hearings first?
Let's get a motion to open all the public hearings. Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Malone, Planning Commission staff. Item 2 is TACPA 2402. It's a plan amendment, and the applicant is requesting a continuance to September 12th, 2024. And they are here if you have any questions.
All right, we have a motion to continue item number 2 to October 12th, 2024, 5:01 p.m. right here at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida 33612. Motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Yes.
All right, Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 3, REZ 2399. The applicant has requested a continuance to October 10th public hearing, but please also waive the 180-day rule.
All right, as part of the motion, can you include the 180 days? All right, so we're going to continue item 3 to October 10th, 2024 with waiving the 180 days. Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. 5:01 p.m., 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida 33612.
Just a reminder to people in the audience that this is the only notice you get of that date, again, October 24th at 5:01 p.m. Thank you.
All right. And then we're going to go to the missed notices and withdrawals. Go ahead, sir.
Did I just hear Mr. Shelby say October 20th?
October 10th, 2024. Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 8, REZ 2371. This was a misnotice and cannot be heard. Please remove it from the agenda.
Can I get a motion to remove item number 8? Motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
All right, agenda item number 9, REZ 2441. The applicant has requested that this application be withdrawn. Please remove it from the agenda.
We have a motion to withdraw item number 9 from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Agenda item number 10, REZ 2455. This was also a misnotice and cannot be heard. Please remove it from the agenda.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda to remove item number 10 from the agenda. All in favor? Aye. And
Lastly, agenda item number 11, REZ 2456. This was a misnotice and cannot be heard. Please remove it.
We have a motion to remove item number 11 from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We have opened all public hearings. We're going to go kick it off with item number 1. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Yes, ma'am. Please state
Good
your name.
evening, Council. Abby Thiele, Interim Administrator, Development and Economic Opportunity. Tonight, I have, first on your agenda are the Ybor City Parking Standards, Section 27178. Last month on July 25th, we requested that a portion of the July 2024 text amendment cycle be pulled out, and that was the Section 27178, and continue to tonight in order to allow staff to make some minor modifications to areas within the language that we found needed to be addressed, as well as to respond to the additional motion by Councilwoman Hertak related to the landscaping items and buffering. We do have a brief presentation this evening that will take us through those modifications, as well as we have 4 minor revisions that we would request council make in between first and second reading, and I'll go through those if that is the pleasure of council. Tonight with me, I just wanted to introduce, I have Eric Cotton, our zoning administrator, Dennis Fernandez, historic preservation manager, Susan Johnson-Velez, and Dana Crosby-Collier from the city attorney's office, and then also Major Eric D. Felice with Tampa Police Department, as this has been a collaborative effort over the past 2 years to get to this point tonight. So if there are questions once we get through with the presentation, I do have those individuals available to answer those questions for you. I'll go ahead through the presentation real quick. So as the motion was originally made on September 15th of 2022. So we've been working hard over the past almost 2 years to get to this point that we are tonight. Highlights of the changes. one thing we talked about on July 25th was the statement of compliance. So that's one of the things that we corrected and is before you tonight, and that I will go through exactly what that language is. But the assumption is if you received your certificate of appropriateness from the BLC and you have made the improvements that certificate of appropriateness entitled the property to, and you've continued to operate under that, then as of September 5th, 2024, you will be considered a conforming lot within the district. New lots that will request to be established after that would now go through the special use 2 process and would be heard in a public hearing, much like tonight. It would be site plan controlled, and it would still require a certificate of appropriateness from the BLC. The next was the vehicle use area buffer to be a 5-foot landscape area with 4-foot fence. I will go to the specific language on that in just a moment. Interior landscaping to be required for lots over 7,500 square feet. On July 25th, we went over with you that the current code has different standards for under 7,500 and over 7,500, and we did now incorporate those interior landscape islands for the over 7,500. Permanent irrigation for new lots will need to be installed. A 15-foot buffer adjacent to residential uses, which is standard code for use group Cs next to use group As. The removal of the requirement to secure the lots. One thing we did find was that most of the lots, the majority of the lots in the district are 24/7. So requiring them to be closed when they're never closed was difficult. We're still committed to looking into this as part of the code update. So it is just not in the language for you tonight, but we will be looking at that as we update the code with the consultant in the next few months. And then changes to the signs, and then the security requirements. So the parking requirements that, and I just went over this briefly, that all principal use parking lots that have received BLC approval as of September 5th, 2024, and have continued to operate in accordance with such approval shall be considered conforming with this subsection A. Principal use parking lots that have not received that BLC approval prior to September 5th shall comply with the requirements of section 27-177 and this subsection A. One of the revisions I'll talk to you about in just a minute, that should be subsection A and B. We left the B off, so that is one of the revisions in between first and second reading that will need to be made, and I'll go through that. Vehicle use area landscaping and use to use or buffers and screening. I know you're very familiar with this in your rezonings, what's required when a use is next to another use, and then what is required when you have parking area that is adjacent to the right-of-way. So as part of the changes that came, the landscape buffer between the VUA, which is the parking lot, and the right-of-way, which is the street, will now be required to be 5 foot with a 4-foot transparent fence. So that's the typical wrought iron, transparent you can see through, and a hedge. The use to use buffers between the parking lot and residential use is contained in the language this evening is 15 foot with a 6-foot solid fence, clearly to meet BLC standards, and then that is also a planted buffer. When the parking lot is next to a non-residential use, it is a 5-foot buffer, and that 5 foot consists of trees and hedge. Signs, we discussed signage for several months now related that there was a requirement for a sign that spoke to no consumption of alcoholic beverage on public property in chapter 14. We've now moved that requirement from 14 into 27, so it's now in both places. And then also that there shall be one sign at each entrance for the cost of parking, the hours of operation, the physical address of the lot, and the contact information for the operator. You'll hear probably this evening in public comment that there are a bunch of other signs that are required by the state when you have principal use parking lot related to liability, related to hold harmless other things, lock your valuables, etc. If it is a state-required sign, you are allowed to put it there. These are only for those additional signs that are city-required signs. And then the new addition was to have an annual operations and security plan. This is to have a this is for lots that have paid parking Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. They're to have a uniformed security guard, and those lots would submit an annual operations and security plan that annually confirms the intent to continue operation of the lot, the illustration of the lot to show that it remains in compliance with that BLC permit as it was provided or approved, a copy of the contract with the security company, photos of all the signs that are on the lot, and then an affidavit attesting to overall compliance. Those couple revisions. So one thing we have heard is that some of these changes, they need additional time to comply with. Right now, we have it set for September 5th, which would be after your second reading of this ordinance. If it's the pleasure of council, could revise that to be October 1st, which is about, almost 60 days, 45, 60 days from today. And that way, I'm showing you which of those sections of the code would change to then be October 1st. That would be the date of compliance, and when that special use would kick in, as well as when the licensed security guard would be, and then finally, we could just make the effective date of this ordinance to be October 1st. So that way, we're not shifting from an attendant to a security guard and have a void of having somebody at the lots. Secondly is that A and B that I talked about in the first section, that all lots, new lots would go through that special use 2 process and need to comply with 27-177 and section A and B. Then there was another statement of compliance under the surface parking lot standards that says all applications for surface parking lots shall be reviewed for certificate of appropriateness by the Barrio Latino Commission Administrator and shall meet the followings. So all new applications for the lots will go to the BLC, and it will be the full BLC. It is not the administrator. And then any surface lot. So I think some of the question has come up, are these standards for an apartment building that has a parking lot, if it has a surface parking lot? And the answer is yes, they are. This is not just if you have a paid lot. If you're coming in with a new office building in Ybor and it has a surface parking lot behind it, you are going to meet the buffering and fencing and use landscaping that a single lot would be required to meet. So these new standards are for all lots. And typically those lots come in to the barrio as part of the building. So you would have the bank and the lot, it's all going to the BLC as one package. And that is when these standards will be checked. And then lastly, there were 2 places in the code that referred to the telephone number of a contact person or the security guard. It was recommended that that was changed to security company because you could have different people on different nights. So having that information for the company was preferred, and that would be our 4th revision that we would ask be made in between first and second reading. With that, I'm available for any questions.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you for all the hard work you all put through this. I spoke to Mr. Carty yesterday. He's here to speak in public comment. And he may have a lot of concerns, but there were 2 main ones that I heard from this. And I've spent more time with the neighborhoods than I have with him, by the way. But the 2 issues that I think he mainly is against is, one, the security plan, just the burden of creating a security plan. Like, how do you find the expertise? How do you pay for it? How would we know how to do that? We're in the parking business. The other is the liability and cost of having individual security. And the question is, why wouldn't the city do this, or This morning we had a CRA update, and the CRA is funding some additional security. I know at one time, some folks were looking at doing a special taxing district like downtown or West Shore that might have paid in part for security. He's going to speak and then we'll all discuss it, but can you just tell us from your research, is the security plan and parking owners paying for their own security and each one having a different company, different policy, is that a standard that most cities require? What's best practices from your research?
As you might recall, this is, the city of Orlando requires this also. And if you want to just call it an operations plan, I mean, really it's showing us that you're in compliance with the security requirement and you have that active contract, which means that you have a licensed guard at your lot Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night from 10 p.m. till 4 a.m., similar to the attendant that's currently required, but it's going to be through a licensed and bonded security
But do you
company.
know, besides Orlando, are there other cities that do this, and or are there other funding mechanisms like using CRA money or a special taxing district or putting a special fee on parking? Is there any other model where maybe a city or a CRA or something would manage this rather than just individual property owners?
I'm not aware of that.
But besides Orlando, do other cities do what we're suggesting doing?
Some other cities right now have moratoriums on new businesses and new nightclubs as their way of approaching having security, to enhance the security situation. This has been something we've talked about for a long time. If council's not in support of having the operations and security plan, it's at your discretion to ask that that be removed from this.
I just want to ask, because I know you spent a lot of time and you guys did a lot of research. I just want to put whatever research you might have on the table. Last question. You talked a lot about applications going forward, but has legal looked at it and it's okay to put this requirement in for anybody who's already been permitted a long time ago?
So
It's okay,
I'll let
retroactive.
legal speak to that, but anybody who has been permitted and has continued, these regulations outside of the security guard, if they are a paid lot on Thursday nights, these do not impact them. They have a current permit, they're operating under that permit, they are vested to that permit. This is for new lots going forward
But
that do not have that.
So the ones that are already permitted don't have to have the security guard and the security plan. Is that what you just said?
No, they do.
And
They
legal
do.
says that's, I don't know the answer to the question, I'm just asking.
Right now, the code requires an attendant. It doesn't specify what the qualifications of that attendant are. And the goal is to change that from an attendant to a licensed security guard.
But my question, Mr. Honorable, is it okay to put this requirement on people who have had a working property for many years? In your legal opinion, it's okay to do that? I don't know the answer, I'm just asking.
Susan Johnson, Velez Legal Department. I mean, I do think it's something that council is considering in response to an identified issue in this area. So I do think it's appropriate, and these are standards that would apply to all the lots within the district, whether they're new or established. It's just a new requirement to address a public safety issue that council has identified.
Councilmember Hurtak, thank you.
Thank you. I'm really appreciative of all the work that Ms. Feely and her team have done, all of them. I've spent a lot of time on this, and I'm very excited. There can be tweaks after this if we need to, but the whole point of this was security. And I had this because TPD officers were telling me about the problems they were having in the district. I went down, I closed Ybor with them, and I saw the problem. And so I've been working for almost 2 years to try to fix this problem, and the problem is security. The parking lots and additional is great, but the main point of this is the security plan, and Orlando has had success with this. Major DeFelice is here if he wants to talk about how this helps, but he showed us last time. He spoke to us and clearly said they don't have the capacity, nor do they have the extra officers to do it. It is not TPD's responsibility. So I think this is absolutely wonderful, and I absolutely plan to support it.
Councilmember Clendenin.
First, I want to say thank you for and I know this has been a lot of work. I know you spent a ton of time on it. And I appreciate the fact that you're treating the parking lots equitably. I know that was one of the concerns that I had heard going into this is, you know, why treat one parking lot different than another? So I think that's really commendable. I have a question on the sign, because I also, sign clutter, you know, you and I have spoken about sign clutter before. I know it's per entrance. Is there a control of how many entrances? Is that in our existing code? How many, I mean, if it's a flat parking lot, I mean, how many entrances a lot can have? I mean, how many they designate, or could they literally have an entrance every 15 feet and put signs up every 15 feet?
No, there are transportation technical standards as to how many and what the distance between the access points need to be.
For a parking lot, okay. Very good, thank you.
Anybody
Appreciate
else?
it. Again, thanks again for you on staff, everybody else on staff, and Councilwoman Hardwick.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This has been going on. This is Gloria Moret, I think, was here when this started. I'm not sure, but I think that was 15, 17 years ago, whatever. I don't remember what those files say. I remember one conversation about parking lots in Ybor City. There's only one area, and some people may like what I'm going to say. Some are going to say, what did he say? There's only one area that we pay our police department for traffic, for being there. Every time there's an event in a certain big place, the citizens of Tampa pay $250,000 a day. And certainly it's not in Ybor City, but I'm just opening eyes to see what's happening, because at that time, it's your land, it's your police officers, and they ain't paying a dime. And it's all theirs. I'm not anti or for anything. I'm just for a good, solid contract with everybody. But this doesn't come up till the vote in November. So these are things that I look at and I tell myself, wow, what a difference. I'm not against this, but if this was fair, it'd be everywhere. But since we have a separate contract, you can't do anything over there. So this is just an eye-opener of what we've done and how we created it and how we owned a parking garage and sold it for face value. And that was the only one that was making money. We've done it all. Not us, 7, but others have. I was not here for the last one. I was here for the first one. I was the only no vote, one uno, because I knew what was going to happen. Or I thought I did. I'm not that smart to think in the future and come up with something. So these are the things that I'm not troubled by this. I'm not surprised by this, because sooner or later, when you give everything away, somebody's going to want the same thing. And this is maybe a direct to what we're doing. So whichever way I vote, I want the others, big parking garage, like 10,000 cars or whatever, that who have the same thing this one has. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? If not, is there anything further to the presentation? If not, I'll go to public comment.
Good afternoon.
Please say your name.
Jason Accardi. I'm the president, CEO of 717 Parking. I'm also the owner of Accardi Real Estate Co. Thank you all for the time today. Could I ask for a few extra minutes to talk tonight, or?
Mr. Shelby, do we allow speaker waiver forms in this case?
You do have speaker waiver forms. Otherwise, it's 3 minutes unless waived by council. It's council's pleasure.
Is there anybody with you that is willing to waive their time to add to yours?
My son and my daughter.
That would be 1 minute each, so it
That's
would be
fine.
5 minutes total.
Adopt the forms of motion to give them 5 minutes.
All right, we have a
Second.
motion, Councilman Clendenis and Councilmember Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
5 minutes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you. As you all know, I've been here before. Steve Michelini and I have come in front of the committee. First of all, I want to thank Abby and her entire staff for being patient with the residents in Ybor and the commercial business owners in Ybor through this whole process. You know, I bought my first parking lot and managed my first property in Ybor City over 34 years ago. And as a locally owned and operated business, and being in front of you today talking about parking standards is very important to us. Being part of the community, being part of safety and security in Ybor City, if it's owning a bar, owning a parking lot, or whatever it is, it's all important to us. So I commend again the city staff for putting some of these recommendations. You know, I did take a look at, and my staff did take a look at, and I did send everybody an email as it relates to some of our suggested, I don't want to call them concerns, but recommendations, observations of what the changes that city staff have made. And I'm going to move very quickly because I only have 5 minutes. One, the timing. If you do pass this at whatever point, I would appreciate the opportunity to look at that time frame. I appreciate that they moved it to October, I don't know what it was, sometime in October. But I think the affected parties by this would ask for a little bit more time, maybe 90 days, something a little bit more time. You're talking about security requirements, liability, bonding. There's a lot that goes on to that. So my first request from council, as you look at my proposed markup that I submitted yesterday afternoon, is timing. Timing is important to an owner-operator of parking. Secondly, I have 34 years of experience owning and operating parking lots and garages nationwide. I employ over 5,000 employees. We are in the process of purchasing parking currently in Nashville, Tennessee, as part of a divestiture where we are going to own and operate a very large market in that area. I studied it last week when I was there. I actually met with a homeless liaison and the city staff, and we actually talked about security and parking. There is nothing under their ordinance. Number one market in the South, in my opinion, I couldn't believe on a Monday night how packed it was. They do a very good job with their MOT plans, with their mobility plans, and with their police department. We talk about security. Today I'm talking about security. That's the most important thing to me, my company, and my staff. Security and liability in our parking lots. I think Councilman Carlson brought it up earlier. What is my concern? One, a security requirement imposed on paid parking lots only. I've been very, very vocal. I don't understand what the difference between having a paid or unpaid parking lot right across the street from each other. Crime doesn't discriminate. I mean, you know, unfortunately, there was a shooting on 4th Avenue this last year on an unpaid parking lot, and someone died. And I don't want to say whose property it was. It doesn't matter. If we're here to talk about security and safety in Ybor City, we should talk about it as a whole. And we should be working with Tampa Police Department on paid or unpaid parking lots. I don't care if it's a garage, a parking lot, crime can happen anywhere. So I would ask for you guys to look today at specifically requiring us to put a security plan together. I've asked, and I think Mr. McElhaney has asked multiple times from TPD to come up and present a security plan. I think they're the one that should be providing, since they're a law enforcement agency, a security plan, not a private owner operator of a parking lot. We're not in the security business. We do rent parking spaces. We do real estate development. But we have a law enforcement agency that should be getting up here and talking to us about a plan, not just for parking lots, Lynn, but for the entire district. How are we going to handle anything and everything on street, off street, in parking lots, on 7th Avenue, et cetera? The other thing is signage and landscape buffers. Signage to me is very important. I talked to my team about, we have a whole enforcement department that checks parking lots, staffs parking lots. And signage is important. When you pull in a parking lot, you want to know how to pay, where to pay. I know that, again, I just got this tonight and I saw on the screen they made some additional changes. But for us as an organization, more is better, because we have people calling every day and saying, oh, I didn't see the sign, or I didn't know how to pay. So signage is important to us. And I do appreciate some of the changes that Abby and her team put together on that. And again, for time purposes tonight, if you could just look at some of my suggested changes or have staff look at that, I think they're reasonable, because again, we're owner-operators. The landscape buffers, as Dennis knows and several people in Ybor, the parking lots that are there are very small. And I know these are for new parking lots, not old parking lots. Our concerning is a 15-foot setback off a residential property, and then a 6-foot wall takes off a lot of real estate if you want to make it a parking lot. And if you could just kind of jump ahead and just imagine if I took away my 15 or 20 parking lots in Ybor City, made them unpaid parking lots, didn't have to meet your requirement, and in turn had all this buffering requirements as well, we would lose parking in the district. Am I done?
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilman Clendenin.
Hey, Jason, I'm Mr.
Thank you.
Cardy. I want to call you first name.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well. Thanks. It's good to see you. I'm perfectly happy to make a motion to change the date to November 1st. We've been working on this for 2 years. I think a little bit of time. I understand that this is a significant.
I think we need to wait till we
No,
hear
but
the
I'm just,
rest
I'm
of
just,
public
no,
comment.
I haven't made the motion. I'm just saying I'm perfectly
Yeah,
willing
I
to.
think we need to listen
Yeah.
to public comment.
Okay. But I mean, so that doesn't bother me at all. On the having, I mean, just get your response to that. I mean, would November 1st be a reasonable time for you guys to be able to
Yes, sir.
accommodate this kind of stuff? Okay. So, the other thing is, reference to Tampa PD, I don't necessarily, that's one of those, be careful what you ask for. When you ask the government agency to provide a plan for you, you may not like the plan that they provide. So I think having, individual control for you might be a little bit better. I mean, I don't know, that might be a little questionable. That sign clutter thing, because I know that's an issue, and I actually have seen that on some of a proliferation of signs, and I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But, especially in the historic district, having sign clutter is problematic, and, bringing that in and making it more reasonable and more aesthetically appealing. And I can't support the lack of buffer between residential. If you live there and if you had a house there, I don't think you'd want less than 15 feet with the barrier wall there.
I
mean,
respect
just
that.
being empathetic with that. Thank you.
Councilmember Hurtak.
Can I motion that we listen to the rest of public comment before we all comment?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else here to speak?
Steve Michelini.
I can't hear. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Steve Michelini, I'm here on behalf of 717 Parking. Council, you know that we've been up here several times asking for some modifications to the proposed ordinance. And the issue regarding a security plan is a requirement that I discussed with Morris Massey, who said to me that you have to have a security plan adopted by the CRA in order to enable funding to be used for CRA to supplement the police department, not for personnel, but for operational expenses. And, we had a meeting with TPD yesterday, and one of the things they said was, if you give us more money, we're not gonna turn it down. And all of that goes hand in hand with the security operations that you're asking for private property owners to engage in. And the discrepancy between unpaid versus paid lots, and we've talked about this, it doesn't stop at a property line. Whatever code requirements you're planning to adopt should be uniformly required across the board. And you're gonna get exceptions, you know what's gonna happen when you say paid versus unpaid lots. You're gonna get a lot of other people coming in and saying, well, don't do that to me. Well, you're doing it to the other property owners. So if there's a security issue, it needs to be addressed as a community-wide issue, not singularly on individual properties. The changes in the code have been occurring as recently as tonight. You had some in July, and it's not fair to have us respond to these kind of changes and then set a deadline that's unreasonable. And you heard Jason say November 1st would give enough time, so certainly we'd appreciate that consideration going to November 1st as opposed to September or October 1st, what the staff had proposed. The issues regarding irrigation and hedges and things like that, if you have to add a water meter, it's a very expensive proposition. This is not cheap. You pay the $50 fee, you pay for the application for a water connection, and then you have to pay for aid and construction fees. And then you're also talking about, just recently you adopted a provision that was watering, you had the watering code, the restrictions on watering and reducing that to save water. So if you have a lot, and you're planning zero-scape or you're planning zero irrigation to utilize the natural flora, then you're going against the other codes. So I think you need more time on this. You really need more time. The staff has been good working with us, as well as TPD, and we'd appreciate extra time to get these details worked out.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in public comment? Yes, sir. Come on up, please state your name.
Hi there, David Bailey, live in historic Ybor, and I just wanted to speak to a couple of comments that we've heard tonight. Clearly, I think we all get that security is a cost of doing business. If the CRA is to consider spending money on security, when are they going to start paying for the lights and for the parking stoppers? That's a slippery slope. So the neighborhood's not behind that. In terms of more time, you've heard historic Ybor come to you and said, we've been talking about this for 20 years. So I don't think, if it goes to November, so be it. But in terms of any more time than that or more security plans, we've been there, done that. The last hearing, we heard from Major DeFelice. It's pretty clear what the path forward needs to be. Landscaping is growing just fine in city lots. I guess it's a miracle, or somebody else has got the right fertilizer, but private lots, city lots, landscaping's doing just fine. And I don't want to muddy the waters because I do really appreciate staff's progress that they've made in everything that they propose. And Historic Ybor wants you to move forward. But I do want to just show you the nuance of language. So, I don't know if you can see this, and actually I do have
Yes,
copies.
you could zoom out a little bit.
So, 3 words make a difference. This is the language that we received last week, and this, can you see that?
Can you zoom out a little bit? Oh, there we go. That's fine. We don't see it.
So, the friendly amendment that we're asking for, and whether you say by or via, public hearing is the operative term. So, not all BLC approvals are the same. We have the BLC Commission, that's the board of folks that sit up there. There's public notice, there's variance requests, there's a public hearing, there's a commission decision. That is the legal process. Then you have the administrator process for entire parking lots, and that is not supported in the code. There are variances being given. There is no public notice, there's no public hearing, and there's no commission decision. So the easy solution is the friendly amendment of just adding by public hearing. And I get that there's semantics here that sounds confusing, but it's the difference between a commission, a board, public notice, and a staff person making decisions that they're not legally able to make for an entire site. They can make decisions on pieces of a site, but they cannot make a decision for an entire site, especially in the Landmark Historic District.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am?
Good evening, Council. Allison Doucette. I just wanted to raise a few points. Obviously, my firm has submitted several letters. Mr. Riccardi, I think we've placed those into the record here, but I wanted to address a couple of points that I think are important to consider as you move forward in this process. Number one is the security requirements. I think there might have been some confusion earlier, or maybe I'm wrong about that, but these security requirements only apply to paid principal use parking lots. They don't apply to any other parking lot in this area. And that is simply not fair to paid principal parking lot providers. This is a citywide, or Ybor citywide issue. It should be appropriately applied to all parking lots if you're going to require security guards. All parking lots, I should say, that are open between the hours that you're requiring security under this other one. And note the differences. Section A of this ordinance, you're attempting to apply to all surface parking lots. Why is it that the security only applies to paid parking lot providers? And then another item that actually is relevant to what Mr. Bailey was just speaking about, the BLC approval. I will tell you that we've seen clients, and particularly 717 Parking, that they've been in the community as parking lot providers for 30 years. Unfortunately, record keeping on the city's behalf as well, going back 30 years, has been very difficult, and we've seen that this issue has come before council before as well. To ensure that they have all of the approvals in line, we're still working with them on that, and there's a second set of hearings for code enforcement where our client has gathered all of their historical documents. We're filing them all in Acela, but it simply takes time. So I appreciate the November potential date, and I also wanted to note for all of those who are skeptical on the November date or any date in the future, that it's really important, the timing alone, if you're going to require that these lots receive BLC approval or have a valid one before November, before September, please understand part of the timing is that these records, the parking lot operators need to make sure that they are on the same page with the city as to what's approved. We suggested February 2024, but as Mr. Riccardi said, if it's November, thank you for that. And again, I think we object, and I don't think that the addition of the public hearing is appropriate in that sentence. It is actually, seems, if he's saying that it's already required, it's superfluous, but it adds an additional element that's not appropriate. But I think that's it, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, I'm gonna go back to Councilmember Hurtak.
Okay. I appreciate a lot of the comments from the public, and actually it's helped clarify things for me, because parking lots are a business. And just like every other business, you have to follow rules. And if you open a club, you gotta have security. And so what we're saying as a city is, if you wanna have a paid parking lot in Ybor, you're gonna have to pay for security. TPD has a security plan. They clearly shared it last time. They don't want to share the full plan in public because sharing a security plan is not safe. It's not a good idea. So, but you already had a meeting with them. So, in the conversation between paid and unpaid parking lots are generally attached to businesses that have people already working there. So I'm less concerned about the unpaid, but if we want to look at unpaid later, I have no problem with that. But we need to start. This has been a 2-year process. I don't think November 1st is a good idea, only because the last major issue in Ybor City was Halloween. And if we wait until after Halloween, we're opening ourselves up to another issue. I absolutely can't. I can't do that in good conscience. And so for me, October 1st is a better compromise. I think, first of all, parking lot operators have known this was coming for years. This is not a surprise. This is not new. This is not, I need to scramble to get this done. If you weren't planning to get this done already, I'm very sorry, but you've known this was coming. In fact, you got an additional time because we didn't approve it during the actual cycle, which was in July. So I don't agree with that at all. I want to just simply approve it today with the changes that Ms. Feely has mentioned, the different revisions. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to, or I'm going to read the ordinance and then we can talk about it. An ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida. Well, and you can have discussion after second.
Point. First of all, the public hearing is still open, if I recall.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Move to close.
Second.
All right, wait. We have a motion to close from,
Yeah. And then maybe you keep it open so
All
you
right,
have all
let's
your
keep it
questions
open.
answered.
Councilman Carlson
Yeah, because I have a question too.
and Councilman
Where's
Quintanas
Mr.
and Councilman.
Mr. Bailey, could I ask you a question? I think if I remember correctly, not to put words in your mouth, but the neighborhoods around would prefer not to have any new, talking about going forward, not to have any new parking lots. But the city, that kind of the compromise is to put these requirements in. Has your neighborhood association approved this, or are you guys okay with the going forward rules and requirements?
I can't speak for the entire neighborhood. I'm a board member on the association. We've discussed this at length. You've heard from us many times before. We've seen this language and we've worked with staff through the process. The point that I made tonight is the nuance that the neighborhood is looking for. But all in all, I would say the neighborhood wants to move forward.
We're not, my question is more, we're not banning new, so some of these rules would apply to existing parking
Correct.
lots. We're not banning new parking lots. So somebody could build a new parking lot under these guidelines. Are you guys okay with that?
The board understands that it now has a special use requirement, so it has to go in front of a public hearing. So that's a public process. If for some reason the neighborhood wanted to get behind a new parking lot for some reason, then we can do that.
Okay.
But it takes away the as-of-right use of principal parking in our historic neighborhood.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that. Thank you.
Councilman Quintanas and Vieira.
This is for Abby Feely, or maybe Susan, I don't know which. So on the nuance of via public hearing that Mr. Bailey had discussed, what is the implication of city implication of changing that language?
So, Abby Feely, right now, this is the statement that is in there, and really, we've been called to the mat on this several times over the past 2 years in relationship to what happened in 2010, where's the 6 months? that statement that's being placed in there is the conforming lot statement for everything that has received a permit up till the date of the implementation of this new code. So that's what, it can't say public hearing because it's not going to be a public hearing till after you approve this code. So
After we approve this code, is everything 100% public hearing?
any new lot,
Would be a public hearing, okay.
unless you had your BLC permit and you have made the improvements. I think I talked to you about that
Right.
on July 25th, right? Because we have some that are under code enforcement through this process that if they don't, they may have now gotten a CA through the BLC, but unless they go and install what's in that CA, come November 1st, if that's the date you select, they're not going to be in compliance. A CA doesn't make you in compliance. You need to make the improvements that you have gotten approval to have. So that is what this is saying. You got your BLC approval, you made the improvements, and you've continued in operation, then as of, if it's going to be whatever the date is, you are conforming. That then draws that line to say, anybody else who comes in, you're coming to this council.
Okay.
There's no other route for you. You're now a special use. You're coming to this council. We're gonna have a public hearing. It's gonna go to BLC for a recommendation, just like you would on a rezoning or another special use. It's gonna come to you and you are gonna make that decision.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, does that answer satisfy you?
The clearest, I understand what Ms. Feely is saying, and I believe her when she says it. The clearest example of where things went wrong is the Blue Ribbon parking lot. So that is the hallmark of how things moved away from the public hearing process. So there was, I believe, an administrative approval at some time in the past. There was not a public hearing that I'm aware of, but there, Mr. McElhaney might know better than I do.
Yeah, you talked to us, yeah. Jason, hold on.
So here's my point. Any subsequent approvals to that lot over time, so whether it's the 2010 approval or the 2023 approval, those administrative approvals are circumventing the public process. We don't get to participate because they're being approved administratively. That's why we're asking for that by public hearing.
But I think you just heard, so this is applicable, if we pass this tonight, all new parking lots, none of that, whatever's happened in the past won't matter, because all new parking lots, if I'm hearing Ms. Feely correct, all new parking lots will be subject to public hearing.
The language that we were presented with is all principal use parking lots that have received a Barrio Latino Commission BLC approval as of September 5th, 2024, and have continued to operate in accordance with the BLC approval shall be considered conforming with this subsection. That's where we're taking objection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Vieira.
Well, let me just make my first say. I agree. In fact, Councilwoman Hertzog took my words on once. I wrote it down here. Some of the stuff that I've heard is that it is the cost of doing business. I mean, so some of this is, I'm not terribly empathetic reference to the water meter and things like that you just referred to. You already heard my points about sign clutter. And on the, I'm still 100% empathetic with, and I spoke to that earlier about types of parking lots, but you know what? I also understand that things are incremental. We have to start somewhere. I get that, and I believe Councilman Hertzog said the same thing. Let's start someplace. We can start here, and if we have to look at the other parking lots eventually, we can do that as well. But we have to start somewhere. So I think this staff has put in an awful lot of time on this. I think they've been very accommodating. I know this has gotten a lot of public input. It's a big public concern. And Ybor City is it's a historic district. It's an important economic driver for the city of Tampa. It's one of our crown jewels. And so anything that we can do to improve that and improve the safety of the people that enjoy that area is, I'm all for. So thank you.
If I could, Council, just make one comment.
Sir, just a moment. Let me go through the day. It's Councilmember Vieira, then Councilmember Carlson.
So I wanted to speak on, once we close, I wanted to give my thoughts on it, et cetera. One thing I would suggest, and to Councilwoman Hertzog, your point is very well taken on Halloween. Maybe since there is an asserted need for more time, maybe October 25th, which is that Friday. So, because again, your point on Halloween is very well taken, maybe the week before.
How about the middle? Because the problem is if you start it on, that's when they're gonna celebrate.
Okay,
So,
yep, that's fine. In
How
other
about,
words,
how about
like,
October 15th?
something like that. That's what I'm looking at. So again, I'll give my comments once we close. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Carlson.
I'll make my comments before we close, but I'd rather not vote on a flawed, what I think is a flawed document. I think there are problems with it that are going to have to be worked out later. The issues in Ybor, the issues in Ybor are much bigger than parking lots, and we know we have a shortage of police. We know we have a funding issue. We've got to change the way we conduct public safety in Ybor, and I know that there have been several iterations of that, but that's a bigger strategy than what's happening in the parking lot. I've personally seen a video on someone's private lot that's not a paid lot where there was a drive-by shooting, and that one was not publicized, and I've heard there's one or two others like that. And so the shootings are happening. One of them happened the same night on Halloween, but it was not in these paid lots. So even if we have security in the paid lots, that shooting could happen again because nobody's guarding the other lots. We need a systemic way of resolving this, and also it doesn't do good to pull police off Howard Avenue and put them in Ybor, or pull them out of Ybor and put them in Howard Avenue. We need consistent policing throughout, and that's why we need to overall address the shortage issue. But I wish we could work closer to fix some of these underlying issues. And should I make a motion to allow Mr. Michelini to respond or not? I make a motion to have him, you guys can vote on it. I make a motion to have him respond for 1 minute.
Come up for 60 seconds.
No one else is,
We-
no one seconded it.
If nobody
Oh,
seconds.
sorry, go ahead. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
60
My
seconds.
only point is you allowed other
State
people
your
to,
name again, sir.
Steve Michelini,
No, people were asked questions.
they just asked me a question.
Well, listen, let's have a
I'm not
meeting,
getting,
forget about
and
it.
I'm not gonna do tit for tat for you. I'm just saying, you've made several revisions to this code. Why won't you consider paid and unpaid lots as part of these revisions? You just had staff recommend 4 additional changes. In July, you had other changes where you inserted requirements for irrigation. What is the issue here? We're just asking you to make it across the board, to make it responsible and fair. The security issue is broad and it's an area-wide issue. It's not a singular issue related to a paid parking lot. Thank you.
Move to close
Hold on a second.
Okay.
We have a motion. Yes, sir.
I have to correct myself on what I said earlier. As I was thinking back, I forgot that there was a mistake made when that deal was consummated on September 6th of '96. And the city had forgot to deed the whole property to Hillsborough County. See, the city can't waive ad valorem taxes, but the county can. So that's what happened. I'm sorry that I made a mistake. I had to go back and rewind my mind a little bit.
Motion to forgive? All right. No, it's a joke. Opposed.
Well, I'll vote for that one too.
Opposed. Is there a motion to close? Second. Motion to close from council.
I was trying to read the ordinance, and then I was interrupted.
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
So an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida relating to publicly initiated text amendments, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, amending Chapter 27, zoning and land development, amending Section 27-178, alternative parking requirements, repealing all ordinances or part of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date, including the 4 revisions, and changing the date from October 1 to October 15th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Vieira. Any discussion? Yes, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so I wanted to give my thoughts on this. I've spoken to a lot of the people who are, in fact, in this room, including the folks who live in neighborhoods, the property owners, their advocates, et cetera. I'm going to be supporting this. I'm glad to see that there's more time being given. it's very well taken that we've made 4 changes today, and you go, hey, listen, why don't we discuss this further? Maybe we can make more revisions, but I don't want to irrevocably kick the can down the road. I don't want to kick the can down the road because this addresses a real challenge, a challenge that everybody in this room acknowledges, which is crime and public safety in Ybor City. And the issue is, how are we going to address it? We have Tampa Police Department that's obviously going to do their work to address it, and I think there is a role to play for businesses. So I obviously salute Councilwoman Hurtak for bringing this forward. I know ordinances working and whatnot is not easy, especially when you have competing sides and you're trying to get as many folks on board. For me, the main issue here is public safety, and I want to move this forward for that issue. We have a lot of different challenges in Ybor City. This is narrowly tailored to those challenges. I hear folks when they talk about paid versus unpaid. I'm not going to repeat what's been said before, but I guess I will, which is when you're dealing with a paid parking lot, that is narrowly tailored to what your business is. When you have an unpaid parking lot, there is a business or some sort of monetary effort that arguably derives benefit, one would think, from that unpaid parking lot potentially, but that's not the very unique nature of your business. Therefore, I do think that there is a more than rational basis for that distinction here. Again, I hear the concerns of the property owners 100%. As we work on this, if there are things that can be changed, if there are, and I remember when we did the apprenticeship ordinance, I told our contractor friends, I go, look, if there's things that you think need to be changed, let's talk about this. When you pass an ordinance, it becomes the 10 Commandments, not the 10 suggestions, but we can always change the 10 Commandments here, so to speak. Again, if there is some demonstrated change that needs to be done. But again, for me, the main issue is public safety. And I hear the concerns of our friends in Ybor City who live out there, who want to make Ybor City livable, walkable, 100% quality, as everybody does. That includes the businesses, the property owners. Everybody in this room agrees on that. There's just a respectful disagreement on how to get there. So I will be supporting this, and that's it.
Councilman Condell.
Yeah, I think the quote is, better to do something imperfectly than to do nothing perfectly. And I think that's, so often that's what we're faced with on council, is we make these decisions. It's never black and white. It's always finding that someplace in the gray area. Like I said, I'm empathetic with the issue of the 2 different types of standards of parking lots, and if we can look through that in the future and try to resolve that, the difference. I still think that November 1st is a good, I really do want to be as, accommodating as possible, because I understand that when you're trying to, running a business and you're doing everything else, and you've got a million other things going on, it's difficult to accomplish all those things. And I understand the point about the holiday, but this has been going on for years, and if 2 weeks makes a difference in a business to be able to get the job done, I think it's a very reasonable request. I guess, for lack of a better word, I'll make a motion to change the date to November 1st, see where it goes. I don't know if there's an appetite for that on council or not, but I think November 1st is a reasonable date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin for November 1st instead of October 15th. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Just as I suspected.
All right. Anything else?
That's all.
All right. Anybody else? If not, we have a motion and a second. Yes, sir.
Yeah, as I said, I don't want to vote on an imperfect plan. If it sounds like this is going to pass, and it really needs to continue to evolve and be edited, I can't vote against it if it's going to be approved, but I'd rather not vote on an imperfect plan. I don't think I have a choice, but it needs to evolve. There is a crime problem in Ybor that we need to resolve. I don't think it's fair to make people go by November 1st. I mean, they got to go before the barrio, right? And anyway, it sounds like what we need to do on Halloween is get the CRA to put in some emergency money. I know some of the property owners in Ybor were trying to get the legislature to fund the sheriff's department to put people there because the city doesn't have enough resources. But we've got to do something systemically, because we actually had a shooting in an unpaid lot last year on Halloween. So what are we going to do about it?
So I think we should have that discussion in a workshop between now and Halloween about specifically that celebration.
So my bottom line is, I can't vote against it, but I don't like some of these disparities in here, and I hope we push to fix them right away.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay.
Motion carry unanimous. Motion carry. He said no.
I said no.
Okay,
Thank
motion
you very
carried with Maniscalco voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on September 5th, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. in Tampa City Council Chambers, City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Item number 4.
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4 is a request to rezone 3614 Temple Street from residential multifamily 16 to residential multifamily.
Before you begin, if you're going to speak on items 4, 5, 6, and 7, please stand, raise your right hand, and we'll swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right, and we have 2 people registered for item number 7. When we get to it, we'll swear them in. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4 is REZ 2443, a request to rezone 3614 Temple Street from residential multifamily 16 to residential multifamily 18. I'll turn it over to Jennifer with the Planning Commission.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission. This is in the Central Tampa Planning District, in the East Tampa Urban Village. It's east of North 50th Street. We're north of East 28th Avenue. There's typically, this allows for commercial uses, but it's been developed with some vacant lots, some residential, and a commercial use up here on the corner, and then we have residential as one moves east of North 50th. The future land use is community mixed use 35 that allows up to commercial general uses. So the request before you of residential multifamily 18 is well within that future land use category, what it's been planning for. And then we have the residential 20 as, which is typically, this neighborhood to the east of the site, east of Temple. And then residential 10 to the south, we have community commercial 35 and more community mixed use 35. So this is going to provide more housing options. That residential multifamily 18 it gives a little bit more density to play with, well within the community mixed use 35 future land use density. And so we found that it was comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern, and it will provide a nice transition in density as one moves east of the site. So that's our finding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir?
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. We'll start out with our aerial map.
No, I have one.
Here's the subject site here, outlined in red. It's off of Temple Street, and then you got North 50th Street to the west. There's a lot zone CG just to the south of it, and you have a few more CG lots south of that. As you move down towards Hillsborough Avenue, you have CI uses along Hillsborough Avenue. Then this basically whole section of the neighborhood here is RM16. North of the subject site, you do have some single-family detached houses. Same with over here. This is actually a commercial use, and then you have some semi-detached and attached uses along the side here. And then to the west, on the other side of 50th Street, this planned development, the site might be familiar to some of you. It was rezoned not too long ago for a funeral home and a cemetery. Since this is a Euclidean, there are no site plans or elevations, so we'll go into the pictures. So this is looking directly at the subject site from Temple Street. This is looking west. This is a little bit better view of the interior of the subject site. This is looking south on Temple Street. You have the subject site here. This would be looking north, subject site. This is looking east across the street. You can see those single-family detached uses. This is just north of the subject site. The subject site is here, single-family detached. This is the CG lot just to the south of the site. These are some of those attached and semi-detached uses that I pointed out on the map on the same block as the subject site. At the very end of the subject block, it showed as vacant on the aerial map, but there's actually a new construction of semi-detached uses. This is once we round the corner along 50th Street. So the back of the subject site is right here. And this is looking directly at the back of the subject site. Can't really see it through all the vegetation, but kind of wanted to give you an idea of what it looked like on both sides of Temple and on 50th. And then this is looking across west on 50th towards the subject site. So development review and compliance staff found the request consistent. 4 dwelling units may be considered on the site under the residential multifamily 18 zoning district. The requested district is consistent with the development pattern in the surrounding area. It's appropriate in location and will provide infill housing. Lastly, the subject site is within the East Tampa overlay development, and development must comply with the overlay district standards at the time of permitting. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions? No. Is there anything else, sir? That's it? All right, do we have an applicant for item number 4? Come on up, please state your name.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Maria Curi, and I'm the appointed agent. As we state, we wanted to do rezoning of the property from RM16 to RM18. That's what we're requesting.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else?
That's it?
Nope.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 4? We have motion closed from Councilman Clendenin, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Miranda, would you mind reading item number 4?
Item number 4, file number REZ 24-43. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 3614 Tampa Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily to RM18 residential multifamily, removing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very
Motion
much.
carried with Hurtak being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on September 5th, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. in City Council Chambers, City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, sir. Item number 5.
Sam Thomas, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 5 is RAZ 2446. Request to rezone 5825 South 5th Street from residential single-family 60 to residential single-family 50. I'll turn it over to Jennifer with the Planning Commission.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. We're in South Tampa Planning District right now, just north of Inner Bay, kind of between McDill and South 6th, and we are along South 5th. So as you know, Inner Bay has a variety of uses, but right here it looks like we have a lot of residential. But at the intersection of Inner Bay and McDill, there is a little bit of commercial uses, but we have residential in the surrounding area. So I'm going to show a future land use map next. And so we do see the future land use is residential 10, that's that orange color. To the south is residential 20. I saw some housing on that. And then community mixed use 35 along South McDill, which allows for those commercial uses. So we reviewed this and did find it was consistent with the comprehensive plan. The residential 10 future land use designation allows for a variety of lot widths and lot sizes. And this street has developed about half of their allowable density under the future land use. And so as one of the city's plan's goals is to provide housing options for Tampa's growing population and underutilized sites. And so we did find that this was consistent with those policies as well as comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern per the comprehensive plan. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir?
Same Thomas, Development Coordination. I'll put the aerial map up and we'll get started. So here is the subject site outlined in red. You can see it along South 5th Street. So you do kind of have a hodgepodge of RS50 and RS60 zoning right along here on 5th Street itself. Just north of the subject site, you have a small RS60 parcel. Then it mainly transitions to mostly RS50. There's maybe 1 or 2 other RS60 lots up here. And then you do have a PD here that is approved for 2 single-family detached units. South, you have RS50 of the subject site, and then across the street it's RS52, but this parcel is actually being utilized for multifamily. As Jen mentioned, as you go over to McDill Avenue and Inner Bay, you do have some CG uses as well. So we'll go on 2 pictures, since there's no site plan. This is looking west directly at the subject site. This is looking north along South 5th Street. You have the subject site right here. This is looking south on 5th Street. The subject site is right here. This is looking east. This is the multifamily that's across the street. This is looking north on Fifth Street. You can see some of those RS50 lots. This is looking southwest. You have the subject site here. And here's a better view of those RS50 lots north of the subject site. This is looking northeast. And then on the opposite side of the street, this is looking northwest, some more RS50 lots. So now we will move on to our conforming map. I'll zoom in a little bit. This is the subject site here. It is red and then it has the black outline with the hatching over it. I just want to walk through where the conforming analysis was because very little of the original block exists due to redevelopment over the time. The analysis for the granular analysis for this focused on South 5th Street to the dead end. And then we also did a granular analysis on South 6th Street up to Lacey Leaf Court. So I'll run through that real quick. It'll be a little long-winded, but I just want to make sure that it is all available for the record and for you all. So the subject site is part of Block 5, Lot 24, and Lot 25. The subdivision was originally platted in 1911, and Block 5 was replatted in 1914. The subject block was replatted with 25 lots, with frontages ranging from 28 feet to 95 feet in length. The area of analysis included 461 parcels. 164 parcels, or 35%, have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 297 parcels, or 64%, have been developed with a width of 59.99 feet or less. So the west side of South 5th Street from Inner Bay to the dead end consists of 11 parcels, excluding the subject site, with lot widths ranging from 50 to 64.99 feet. Of those parcels, 8 or 72% are 59.99 feet or less in width, and 3 of the parcels, or 27%, are 60 feet and greater in width. The east side of South 5th Street from Inner Bay Boulevard to the dead end contains 6 parcels with a lot width of 45 feet to 55.99 feet. Of those, 100% of the parcels are less than 60 feet in width. Once we move 1 block west of the subject site to South 6th Street, we're looking at the east side of that street from Inner Bay Boulevard to Lacey Leaf Court. It contains 14 parcels, and the widths range from 50 to 99 feet. Of those parcels, 10 or 71% are 59.99 feet or less in width, and 4 or 29% are 60 foot or greater. So staff has identified that 64% of the parcels have been developed with a width of 59.99 feet or less. And due to that, and within the study area, and due to that, staff finds the request consistent with the existing development pattern in the overall area. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much, sir. Applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Shelby, I have about 8 copies of the letter I wrote.
Hello, sir. Please say your name.
John Lum, 2811 Bay Point Circle, Tampa, Florida. Councilman Henderson, very nice to see you here tonight. God bless you. If I could maybe just read this to you. It's a little bit of a concern a lot of folks in the industry have right now, and I just wanted to talk to a couple of lawyers, and they asked me to, they said this is the best way just to clarify some of the ambiguities here with this. So, Mr. Chairman, as housekeeping matter here, I think we are all aware of the recent circuit court decision by Judge Moe that potentially calls into question the jurisdiction of this body to hear and decide quasi-judicial decisions. I've been advised by several attorneys knowledgeable in the area that we should request this and put it on record. Mr. Shelby, can you please confirm that the city's position in this body has the power and authority to hold this hearing and make decisions on this quasi-judicial hearing I'm having tonight?
Mr. Chairman, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. I would like to defer to Deputy City Attorney Kate Wells to be able to respond on the city's behalf.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Please say your name.
Thank you. Kate Wells, Deputy City Attorney. I believe Andrea Zellman, the City Attorney, addressed City Council on this very specific issue last Thursday and recommended that City Council continue holding hearings as it has been. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Please say your name.
Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. The staff has gone through the review, and we've been found to be consistent on the city staff as well as the planning commission. This is a residential 10 designation land use area. It is a mix of different uses and different variety of sizes of properties, and the staff correctly pointed out that we have multifamily as well as spots of RS60 in the area and RS50. So it goes throughout the area. The block face, as the staff has pointed out, the dominant pattern is the RS-50, and the redevelopment projects that are occurring are built on 50-foot lots. The area is undergoing a lot of changes, but they were originally platted at 50 feet. The depth of these lots is fairly deep. They're 150 feet deep, so they exceed the 5,000 square foot requirement under RS-50. They're actually 7,500 square feet each. Both parcels are 15,000, 1,100 square feet in total. The Inner Bay and the South McDill area is a active redevelopment area, which this is consistent with. We did not receive any calls or concerns regarding this petition. The proposed rezoning will allow the consideration of 2 single-family houses, and the lots are approximately 50 feet, matching the existing lots widths throughout the area. So we're not asking or introducing a new development pattern into the area, and the staff had pointed that out. I would like to have all of the land use designations that the staff cited as being appropriate and that this was consistent with be received and filed and made part of the record. There are a lot of them, so if you would just receive and file that report, I would appreciate it. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 5? I see no one and no one registered. Motion from Councilmember Clendenin to close, second from Councilmember Miranda, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilmember Vieira.
Yes, sir. Glad to move an ordinance presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 5825 South 5th Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification, RS-60 residential single family to RS-50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reader and adoption will be held on September 5th, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. in Old City Hall, City Council Chambers, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening. Item 6.
St. Thomas Development Coordination, agenda item number 6 is REZ 2448, a request to rezone 2201 North Glenwood Drive from residential single-family 60 to residential single-family 50. I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Jennifer Malone, Planning Commission staff. This is in the Central Tampa Planning District. This is very zoomed in, but we are west of North Boulevard. So you have North Boulevard right here. This is West Ross Avenue and North Glenwood Drive right here. And then we have the river and some vacant lots and this wonderful, beautiful new roundabout to the south. The future land use is residential 10. These 2 lots to the north that are the darker brown is residential 20. And if that looks familiar to you, it's because it was a plan amendment a couple years ago. Sorry. This is residential 35 east of North Boulevard, which is also an urban village, but the site is not within that urban village. It just gets a little denser east of North Boulevard. And then surrounding area is single family detached, consistent with that future land use designation. We also have regional mixed use 100 down to the south, which is generally the Armature Works development. We found this consistent with the comprehensive plan. This is going to encourage infill development in an area that, again, is underutilized. We're looking at an existing density of about 7.31 dwelling units per acre in this area of the city, and it's planned for 10. So allowing this zoning would allow us to utilize that land more effectively and provide more housing for Tampa's growing population and under the underutilization of those sites. So I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, sir?
St. Thomas Development Coordination. Here is that aerial map. So you can see the subject site here outlined in red along Ross and Glenwood. The surrounding area is largely RS-60. To the south, it does say RO1. This was a mistake on our maps that has been corrected now. This is actually part of the PDA on the other side of North Boulevard, the Heights PDA. Our maps just weren't updated before, but it has been updated now. North of the subject site, you do have a PD here that was approved for 2 single-family detached homes. As Jen mentioned, this was a comp plan amendment not too long ago. It also came in as a plan development for semi-detached uses. And then the rest of the neighborhood is RS60 with a few pockets of RS50 that have come in rezoned over the years. Then on the other side of North Boulevard, you have multifamily uses. So we'll go into the site now. So this is looking, and there's a kind of a few pictures because the site's rather large. This is looking south on Glenwood Drive. This is all the subject site right here. This is looking south on Glenwood towards Ross. This is moving farther down Glenwood. This is the subject site. Moved a little bit farther down, so now you can see the single-family home that's currently on the subject site. This is looking from Glenwood still. And then this kind of gives you the full view. Ross is over here, where it intersects with Glenwood, so you can see the subject site kind of goes from here all the way to where that white fence is. This is looking northeast on Glenwood. You can see some new development just next to the subject site. This is interior to the subject site, looking at that house you just saw in the foreground before. This is looking west across Glenwood. This is the Ridgewood Park Butterfly Garden and the new extension of the Riverwalk that should be coming soon. And this is a little bit zoomed in picture so you can see a better view of the development pattern on the other side of Glenwood. You have some new construction, multifamily here, and then some more new construction being built currently there. And this is looking back towards the subject site on the other side of Glenwood. We've moved over to Ross Avenue now. So this is looking east on Ross Avenue towards the Heights redevelopment. This is the subject site, and then some new construction next to it. This is looking north towards Glenwood Drive over here. This is the subject site. This is Ross Avenue. And then now we're looking west on Ross Avenue at the intersection of Glenwood and Ross, and this is the subject site. So now we will go on to the conforming map. So you have the subject site right here. For the purpose of the granular analysis, we looked at Glenwood Drive on the east and west side, between Park and Ross, so this side and this side. Then we looked from Glenwood Drive to North Boulevard. We looked at these 3 parcels since those are the only ones oriented towards Ross Avenue. The development pattern's a little bit different along North Boulevard. They're oriented towards that, so we did not include that in the analysis. And then lastly, on this original block, we looked between Glenwood Drive and North Boulevard at these 2 parcels that are oriented towards Park Avenue. So I'll go through the analysis now. So the subject site is part of the Ridgewood Park subdivision, Block D. 11 of the, Block D, lots 11 and 12. The Ridgewood Park subdivision was platted in 1922 with 13 blocks. The subject Block D was platted with 14 lots with frontages ranging from 55 feet to 74 feet. The area of analysis included 180 parcels. 69 of those parcels, or 39%, have been developed with a width of 60 foot or greater, and 111 parcels, or 61%, have been developed with a width of 59.99 or less. The blocks east and west of North Glenwood Drive between West Park Avenue and West Ross Avenue are comprised of blocks D and E. The subject block on the east side of North Glenwood Drive, Block D, contains 3 parcels excluding the subject site, all fronting, or 4 parcels, 3 of them excluding the subject site, all fronting North Glenwood Drive. Of those 3 parcels, 100% of the lot widths are between 55 and 59.99 feet. On the opposite block, Block E, the west side of North Glenwood, it contains 5 parcels that front North Glenwood Drive, and 5 or 100% of those lot widths are between 55 and 59.99 feet. On the south side of the subject block, between North Glenwood Drive and North Boulevard, there are 3 parcels oriented towards West Ross. 3 or 100% of those parcels have lot widths less than 54.99 feet. 2 of them, or 67% of the parcels, have lot widths between 50 and 54.99 feet. And 1 or 33% of the parcels has a lot width between 45 and 49.99 feet. Moving to the north side of the block, subject block, between North Glenwood Drive and North Boulevard, it contains 2 parcels fronting West Park Avenue. 2 of those parcels, or 100%, have lot widths between 70 and 74.99 feet. Staff has identified 61% of the parcels have been developed with a lot width of 59.99 feet or less, and has determined that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the existing development pattern in the overall study area. I'm available if there's any questions.
Any questions? Nope, thank you very much. Applicant?
Good evening, I'm Shane O'Neill, 804 West Park Avenue. I'll make mine short and sweet. The subject lot's right here with the red dot here. We've accomplished this exact same rezoning here on this corner of Amelia and Glenwood about 2 years ago. 2501, 2503 North Glenwood, RS60 to RS50. And as mentioned before, there's a PD here. It's actually my personal home and the house next door. We did a PD. Within the PD, we asked for a few things, and one of them was to do the RS60 to RS50. Also as mentioned, along Glenwood, most homes, even though the lots are RS60, the lots are less than 60 foot wide. So for that reason, kind of feel like this is right in line with what's happening along here. As a matter of fact, Mobley Homes is in the process of doing this exact same rezoning from RS60 to RS50 on this double lot here on the corner. That wraps up my presentation. If you have any questions at all.
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Henderson? No? Anybody? No? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 6? Move to close it. No, that's for, it says item 7. Yeah. All right, we have a motion closed from Councilman Vieira. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilmember Henderson, item number 6.
File number REZ 24-48, an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2201 North Glenwood Drive in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classifications RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family, providing an effective date.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Second reading and motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on September 5th, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. in Old City Hall, City Council Chambers, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, last item of the night.
Same time as development coordination. It's been a while since we've had a last item on the night this early. Agenda item number 7, REZ 2451, is a request to rezone 701, 705, and 801 East Wilma Street from residential single-family 60 and commercial neighborhood to residential multifamily 18. I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Okay, Jennifer Malone, Planning Commission staff. We are in the University Planning District, west of North Nebraska Avenue, north of East Bush Street. We're kind of right at this interchange. This is showing vacant on my aerial, but it has been developed. Sam will show pictures, I'm sure, next. There's just, our aerial is just a touch outdated, but there is development down here, some multifamily. We, of course, have commercial uses along North Nebraska and some residential uses as we move north of the subject site. And then this looks like a car lot here at the corner. So it has 2 future land use designations. We have residential 20, which is the brown color, and community commercial 35, which is red. That probably is why it has 2 zoning districts right now. So the application is to bring it in as 1 zoning district, and the requested zoning district is consistent with both of the future land use designations. The community commercial 35 does allow for some pretty intensive commercial uses, but we actually think that putting the residential multifamily 18 here would be really sensitive and compatible for this residential 20 that it kind of interfaces right to the north. So that will provide that nice transition, as well as to the multifamily to the east. So comparable and compatible with the surrounding area. The plan definitely supports this type of development here. We would also just state for the record that this future land use designation, the community commercial 35, has some enhanced pedestrian-oriented design, seeks a certain type of design, and so in our reports we just ask that the applicant meet what, we understand that it's Euclidean, but at permitting just meet what they can. So with that, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
St. Thomas Development Coordination. I won't spend too much time on the aerial map because Jen covered it really well. Just as Planning Commission's map is, aerial's a little outdated, so is ours. There we go. Oh. There we go. So I'll show, just so you can see the updated aerial of what's been developed recently, and then I'll go back to the zoning map. So You can see these two parcels that are part of the subject site are zoned CN currently. Then you have a small, tiny non-conforming lot that is zoned RS60. North of the subject site, you have RS60 lots, and then you have a small pocket of RS50. The CI and CG lots here that you can see in the aerial that have the multifamily on it. Those were developed under the current zoning district, and then you have commercial uses along Nebraska, as Jen said. Along Bush, you do have some IG zoning here and here, and then obviously the site backs up to Interstate 275. So I'll go in and show some pictures now. So this is looking southeast at the subject site from Wilma. There's a view of that multifamily that was developed right next to the subject site. This is looking southwest on Wilma, so we're moving towards Interstate 275. This, you can kind of see how long the subject site is. I need to zoom out some. There we go. So this is looking south directly at the subject site. You can see 275 in the foreground there. This is looking west towards the dead end of Wilma. You can see those single-family detached uses on the other side. There's a better look at those single-family detached uses. Now we're looking back east towards Nebraska Avenue on Wilma. You have the subject site here. Moved a little bit farther east. You can see the subject site here. A little bit better of a view of that multifamily development. This is looking north across the street from the subject site. Single-family detached home. Gives you a view of the subject site almost in its entire length on this side of Wilma. So this is looking west towards the dead end. And then I try to peep over the fence and get you a little bit better view of that multifamily development just abutting the subject site. And then across the street from that multifamily development that was in the last picture, you have these single-family detached homes. I'll leave that picture up. Let's see here. So development review and compliance staff reviewed the application and found it consistent. A maximum of 14 dwelling units may be considered on the site under the residential multifamily 18 zoning district. The district will provide a transition from the denser multifamily uses located to the east and south of the subject site to the single-family detached units located to the north. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Nope. Applicant?
Good evening. I'm John LaRocca, 3225 South McDill Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I'm the agent for the applicant, owner of the property. The owner is here this evening, should there be any questions posed of him. As you well know, a very detailed report has been prepared by the Development Coordination Department with all the reviewing departments finding this application consistent. Planning Commission found the application consistent and consistent with all of the adopted plan policies. I think it's important to note, and those of us who've been around for a long time, and going back to the aerial, this property is directly behind what was the old Ramada Inn at the intersection of I-275, Bush Boulevard. The eastern edge, if you will, or block, is Nebraska, one of the primary corridors where you'll see opportunities for transit expansion as time moves on. There's been transit corridors discussed. As a planner, a long-time practicing planner, I will indicate that this is a classic transitional request that's being sought here. You would have seen in one of the photos that Mr. Thomas presented that there's a cellular communication tower on the CN portion of this property that's subject to the rezoning. That tower is on a month-to-month lease and will be removed when this property is developed. The applicant and I met some time ago before we made this application for the rezoning. The comprehensive land use plan for that area is a broad section of residential 20 north from Wilma north and west of Nebraska, with a lot of community commercial, 35 land use in the area. This particular property is very unique in that it's the only neighborhood commercial parcel and RS60 on the south side of Wilma that backs up to the interstate ramp, that backs up to the commercial development. So again, it's a classic transitional zone in the residential 20 land use designation that's compatible and consistent with all those policies. I want to clarify one thing. The property is, the western edge of it is a small triangle. So when you take the frontage, the actual developable frontage, to be able to get developable lots that meet the RM18 should this zoning be granted. The standards that are included in your package in the report from the Development Coordination Department, the land use plan would allow consideration of up to 18 or 20 units to the acre, which would convert based on the land area involved, which is about 3/4 of an acre, to either 14 or 16 units, depending on the zones that you're applying for. The reality of it is, in this RM18, and I know we can't talk about detailed development plans, but simply utilizing the RM18 standard Euclidean guidelines, the most number of units that one would be able to develop based on the configuration of that land and to meet all the criteria of the uses that would be the primary residential uses that would be allowed would be approximately 8 units. And that was discussed before we even made this application, because we talked about doing a PD zoning very early in the process and trying to, make a piece of property that's not perfectly rectangular with the total frontage to be able to accommodate more units. I do know, and I know there's some people, and I'll introduce myself to them. We've been in very direct and honest conversation with, I believe, 2 of the individuals that are registered to talk virtually or participate virtually. There is a letter that has been submitted regarding some objections, but I believe, and I don't want to interpret their words, but I believe the objections are due to some other problems that are going on in terms of code enforcement and issues in the neighborhood. I can only tell you from the applicant's perspective, if this property is rezoned to RM18, the applicant will comply with all RM18 guidelines, including parking, setbacks, design standards that are applicable to the code. If there is anything proposed once the applicant gets into the development review process that throws it into one of those categories of use that requires special review and approval to come back for those kinds of conditions. One of the issues that was raised and that we've discussed is not combining this property with the multifamily to the east and south, where there would be some access through this property. That's not allowed in this particular case, and the applicant commits to not allowing that to happen and has no intentions to doing that. With that said, I'm glad to answer any questions, and I've got some other graphics if we need to show them to show exactly what's happening in that neighborhood. But from my perspective, my experience, and the policies in the comp plan and the standards that were analyzed by the land development and development coordination section of all the departments that were reviewing this project, everything is consistent for this kind of zoning. Thank you.
Any questions? No. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak? If not, I have 2 registered speakers online. I don't see anybody in the public here to speak, so I'm going to go to the registered speakers, Joel Snow and Joan Kosman. Please turn on your cameras, unmute yourselves, raise your right hand, and we'll swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
You're muted, or somebody's muted.
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, do you swear to tell the truth and everything else she said?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with Mr. Joel Snow and then go to Joan Kosman. Please state your name, sir.
Joel Snow?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So yes, and thank you for the time, but our pleasant conversations with the developer or the owner and the developers, Mr. LaRocca and Mr. Preedy, and I think our concerns have been addressed. Primarily is, which we successfully got from the Adderley, that 5-story low-income housing across from us here, is no access to Wilma Street. So as long as that's being assured, that's our number one thing, right? That's all we're after, and we've been assured of that. So secondarily, though, since this, and by the way, for the record, we are pro-business, and the businesses that are on the east side of Wilma Street is something that we found to be a problem. Now, since the Adderleys come in, we have a beautiful new sidewalk that runs the entire length of the 800 block of Wilma Street with a privacy PVC fence. It's absolutely gorgeous. But those businesses, I'm afraid, are still trying to adapt with parking. So we engaged the mobility department and the parking folks, and they've done an awesome job. The city's done an awesome job. We still have challenges. I know this may not be necessarily related to the zoning, but it is a fallout because now if we add even more people down there and what's happening with street parking and people actually parking on the sidewalk, those are the things that we're just trying to bring light to. And I know we'll try to address it with the appropriate parties. But hey, we need help when that comes to that because they're just parking on the sidewalk now and the street's being blocked on a regular basis. And it can only get worse if we add more folks at the other side of the street. So with that, I'll turn it over to the real boss, and Joan.
All right.
So I'm
Joan
in
Cosman.
agreement. Our concern is just a traffic flow between Wilma and Talaferro and this new development.
Please state your name, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joan Cosman?
Okay. Was that it?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion to, do you need a rebuttal, sir?
No.
No?
I'd only like to say, and because we're the last one, I don't want to take too much time, was hello, Mr. Snow and Ms. Kosman. We've talked enough recently on the phone and gotten to know each other. We've not met each other face to face. But the issue, all I want to say in rebuttal, it's really not a rebuttal, is to say that the concerns that Mr. Snow and Ms. Kosman have raised are honestly code enforcement issues that are occurring in that neighborhood. What you did not see in the photography tonight was the commercial at the end of the block where there's parking all over the street and over the sidewalks in that area. They're concerned about that. They're concerned about cut-through traffic. They're concerned about speeding. All I can commit to is that this applicant is not intending to connect to anything to the south and east to allow additional access. These will be traditional attached or semi-detached units that meet the RM18 code, and the applicant developer will comply with those standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Hurtak?
All I wanted to say was that if the folks who spoke virtually are continuing to have code enforcement problems or problems with parking, that to reach out to my office, and I'm happy to help.
Thank you very much. Do you have a motion to close? Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Vieira. All in favor? Aye. Councilmember Clendenin, would you mind reading item number 7?
I don't know, maybe it should be Councilman Vieira. We never get a Euclidean zoning request from his district. Okay, very good. An ordinance being presented for first reading and consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 701, 705, and 801 East Wilma Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classifications RS60 residential single family and CN commercial neighborhood to RM18 residential multifamily, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on September 5th, 2024 at 10 o'clock a.m. in City Council Chambers, City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, 3rd floor, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Miranda, new business? Councilmember Vieira, new business?
Yeah, really quick if I may. On August 22nd, I had the Rocco Dance Academy coming in for a commendation. I gave that off premises. I'd like to remove that from the agenda if I may.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Then, thank you. Then I was asked by Tampa Police Department to do a commendation to be presented to Deputy Chief of Investigations and support Mr. Michael Hunter on his retirement after 26 years of service at the August 22nd regular session.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And I was also asked by folks at the 13th Judicial Circuit to give a commendation on November 21st, where we appear to have an empty calendar, to Mr. David Rowland for his 30 years of service as General Counsel to our 13th Judicial Circuit. The what?
Is there anything going on in the 13th Judicial?
Little something, just a little
We have a
something.
motion from Councilman Vieira. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Yes?
Yes. Then I would like to give kudos to Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Rick Scott. I'm joking.
We got some talking to do.
That's self-deprecating humor. It's an insight, yeah. With a couple people out there.
Is that it, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes, thank you. Just a public comment. This month is National Black Business Month, and I just want to highlight and say that to our community that we are acknowledging that this month. And I just want to pay a special tribute to those Black-owned businesses that do business with the city of Tampa. We just want you to know that we appreciate you, and every council meeting for the rest of this month, I will be acknowledging Black Business Month. So that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And I was actually going to recognize, there are many businesses, but specifically the CDC of East Tampa and all that they contribute. I'm personal friends with quite a few individuals there. I don't know if, I'm not going to make a motion for a commendation or anything, maybe in the future, but you brought it up with the month of August. So I just want to give them a shout out. I want to congratulate my wife on getting all A's. She's studying for her master's, Florida State. But
Excellent education
yes,
school.
she wants to be a school counselor. So I just want to give her a shout out. But in official business, I want to make a motion to for the September 26th workshop agenda for the city staff to present the conceptual amendments for the July 2024 text amendment cycle, the Tampa LDC amendments.
I have to check that. Okay, we have a motion from Councilman. You didn't tell me microphone. Sorry. Isn't that your job? We have a motion from Chairman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And that's it. Thank you very much. Councilmember Clendenin.
You may have the gavel back.
Thank you, sir.
Sanitizer.
Any new business?
Well, from our discussion that Councilman Carlson brought up about, and Councilwoman Hurtak, about Ybor City and Halloween, we're in budget season. I know some of it's resources. We probably need to have this discussion about putting resources to ensure that we have a safe Halloween in Ybor City.
I might suggest you talk to the police first,
Right,
like
but
just
I mean,
offline.
let's have a discussion about it.
But that's what I'm saying, but talk to him offline and see what he's already doing, because I don't want him to come here and tell us, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So just see if there's a need.
Maybe we should all talk to him.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think we should all reach out, but
Yeah.
again, I really get uncomfortable when we're talking about safety plans, and I want people to know we have them.
I'm just talking about resources,
I
just
know,
making sure they have enough resources, because this is after October 1st.
That's
so
fair.
The
That's fair.
The new budget is, we're talking about a budget, we're talking about resources. Let's make sure that they have enough money to accomplish the mission.
Anything else, sir?
That's all.
Councilmember Hurtak.
Thank you. I have a few. I want to change the motion I made on August 1st regarding a written staff report on sidewalks built in with the in-lieu fees. I've talked to them again, and they actually request to have that written report continued to January 9th as well to match with the in-lieu fee conversation, 2025, and this will be on the same agenda as that sidewalk in-lieu fee resolution.
Do you know when that motion, when was that motion set for?
It was set for August 22nd.
August 22nd.
So, sorry, I'm moving it from August 22nd to January 9th. So I'll put on here, it was August 22nd.
We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak, Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a little bit of a long one. But we talked about Dennis, and we talked about this with Mr. Rojero during the budget workshop. I moved to have staff provide an in-person report on November 21st, 2024 to include general fund major revenue by category for the FY24 adopted budget, FY24 preliminary year end, and the variance or change between the two. Include the following categories of revenue based on page 6 of the FY25 budget presentation titled General Fund Budget. Property taxes, other taxes, charges for services, and miscellaneous revenues. And the reason I want this is to see what the difference between what we predicted and how we ended up, so to see what the variance is. But also, yes, that was the revenue side. Now we're doing the expenses side.
Are they two separate motions?
No, it's the same thing. It's the same motion because they go together. They travel together. So the general fund, and I have all this written down, Sulie. General fund major expenditure by category for the FY24 adopted budget, FY24 preliminary year end, and the variance between the two. Include the following categories of expenditures based on page 7 of the FY25 budget presentation titled General Fund Budget: salary and benefits, new positions, CRA contributions, PAYGO capital project funding, budget increases, which under that were increased cost, increased level of service, and new service. That is the motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak, second Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yes, ma'am.
Harry Hedges recently retired from the AHAC board, and I would love to acknowledge his public service by presenting him with a commendation here in council chambers on October 17th, 2024.
Absolutely. We have a motion from Councilmember Hurtak, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, ma'am?
Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about was. Oh, yeah. So we had the conversation on Monday about the police impound facility. And so I've done a little research, and I just want to show you the how this has gone forward. And we can absolutely provide you all with copies of this. So this started in 2022 as a police impound facility, and it was the project provides for the construction of a new building, all necessary site improvements for the impound lot. There was a budget of $4 million. Next year, it changed. It still is called the impound facility, and then they added "and offices." This project provides for the construction of a new building and all necessary site improvements for the purpose of relocating the TPD impound lot. This project also provides for the renovation of an existing building and all necessary site improvements for the purpose of relocating various TPD offices. And then the budget increases to $8.1 million. The issue here is what they're telling us is that this is when they changed and decided that they were going to put the forensics. But they didn't tell us. The title didn't change. It just changed to "and offices." If you go to the next year's budget, which actually has my notes on it, what exactly will be housed here, and where is the remaining $3 million? Right. So right now they've allocated and used about $5.5 million. And I've underlined the definition includes that various TPD offices again, but the project title remains relocation of TPD impound facility and offices. It is not as clear what it needs to be. Next is this year. This year, this is all under the same account number, which is 1002121. Again, this is the exact same thing. And it changed from offices to the offices is in the title, but now it's several TPD units. The money hasn't changed here. They still haven't used the $4 million. But next is the additional project. And this was what was added. This is the $40 million project. So now we have $8.5 million in the first one. This project is number 1002690. And again, I'm happy to give you all copies of this. And this says, this project provides for the construction phase of the renovations of an existing 38,000 square foot warehouse within a 7,500 square foot addition to accommodate the evidence control and forensics unit of the TPD, to include parking lots and a retention pond. But this does not at all talk about the impound lot. So I'm very concerned because this is how we ended up with several other big projects. We started with these little things. It was titled impound facility, then next it was titled impound facility and offices, then that's what it stayed. But it never said what the offices are. We cannot be expected to go through 300 CIP projects to see. The final document is the scope of services agreement that we found, dated September 2022, that clearly says relocation of the Tampa Police Department impound lot, evidence control section, and forensics units to the existing site at these two addresses. So this has been planned since 2022 and simply has not been in the CIP as in the description. And this is my concern. So my motion is to have an in-person staff report at the operational budget workshop on August 19th with a detailed timeline from FY21 to present for the TPD Annex / impound project, which is items number 1002121 and 1002690, associated with addresses 5005 North Howard Avenue and 5112 North Albany Avenue, which should include purchase documents, including a site plan, any budget amendments, and all RFQs, awards, scopes of service, and financial commitments.
Is there a second?
There's a second.
Second from Miranda? All in favor?
Aye. And so what I want to say is this doesn't reflect our true 5-year plan, and this is what I would like to try to fix. And I want to have an honest conversation with them about this and how we go forward. Because what this is telling us and what this is evidence of is that any small project, any project, can go from small to $40 million without our knowledge. And this is what the public is saying they don't want. This is the issues that, and so, yeah, exactly. It happened with Fair Oaks, it happened with Hannah Avenue, and we have all desperately been, I'm sorry? And the Riverwalk. So we've all been desperately asking for more transparency, but this is not transparent. This was not a transparent way of going forward. So I would really love to have a conversation at this workshop about how we can do this going forward.
Could you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Could you maybe make a separate motion to address the systemic issue? Because that's just a case study, but as you said, there are all these other projects. And what this is pointing out is that somebody made the decision not to be transparent with us or the public, and we don't know what else is out there. And going backwards, you know, like in Hannah Avenue, I won't bring all that up again, but there are so many bad things.
Well, but that's what I want us to have a conversation about it, and I think having them show a timeline first, us having a conversation, and then we can make motions, which apparently we can make motions during workshops. That was a mistake on our part. So I just want to make I want to make sure. Well, but I just want to say that we should have that conversation after we've had this. I don't think that anybody wants to stay tonight to have this conversation.
No, do you want to set another agenda item just after that to talk about the systemic issue, or just?
Let's wait for this first.
Let's vote for this first, and then I'll say, so
I have a question. So on those documents that you disclose, each year, what were the price tags on each one of those shares?
we showed it, Kelly can show that again.
I know,
but-
it was difficult some of them to read.
Oh, well, that's why we will
I won't be
we
here
will
next week. I
provide,
won't be
yes,
here- I
but
won't be here
she's
next
gonna
week.
make them right in the moment, but initially it started at, it started with, FY '22, which was, $2.6 million. Then it went to the next year in FY '23, to $5.2 million for a total of 8.1. Then it went to 8.48 in FY '24. It has stayed 8.5 in '25, but then they added the 40 million to the other projects. So we're looking at 48.5. Now I spoke to Deputy Chief Kate, and she said that they intend to keep it at 45 million. But again, I want them to be able to tell us that. I don't want to be sharing that information secondhand.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Anything else?
Yes, I would like to have that, and I've been trying to figure out the best way to ask for that. So I'm still working on that motion. If you want to make a motion, but we have to discuss. We have to think forward about how we're going to combat this. How are we going? So I don't know if it's requiring project titles to match by a certain date. I mean, I've gone through all sorts of things, but I think we need to talk about it as a group. Again, I'm going to give you these copies. I want you to think about it, and maybe it's something that we can talk about on Monday.
This is fantastic background, and thank you for doing that. The other thing you didn't do, I think, is you didn't specify who should come speak. I don't think it should be TPD speaking on this.
No.
It should be somebody in facilities or chief of staff or CFO, because it's not if it's TPD, then it's a discussion about whether they need it or not. It's not, that's not the issue. The issue is why wasn't this disclosed to the public earlier, and how did the price escalate, just like all these other projects?
This is a budget special call workshop.
Yeah, but that's why.
And this is budget related. This goes beyond, I guess, you're adding it to the agenda, you're giving enough notice to the public. That's the operating budget. This would be separate, but also on the agenda, budget related, because this is budget moving forward.
Yes, and I thought about that as well. And the reason I said staff, because I want it to be the staff that's working on it, but I will specify facilities and budget staff.
Yeah, because there's been a change in leadership at the.
You are right. You're right. So facilities and budget staff report, because this is not you are correct. This is a facilities issue. And by the way, the police impound facility is under facilities. The new one is under police. So that there are different departments too. So one of the questions I have is why it's two different projects and why we haven't combined them to one number.
All right.
So
These are the things that keep us open.
Yep. Oh, and I want to specifically thank Ms. Scharf and Ms. Kopesky for helping me with this. They did a lot of work in this as well.
Councilmember Carlson.
I know, I don't have anything, think,
Motion to receive and file.
Yes.
Oh,
Bit of housekeeping with regard to Councilman Vieira's motion for the commendation on August 22nd. Your new rules state that a maximum of one in-person commendation for
We need
other
one
than
more.
police, fire, and ATU shall be set for each regular meeting. You presently have one commendation set up, so this would require a waiver of your rules.
Is that, I'm sorry, did we?
Just for Marty.
Oh, just for me.
Yeah, just make one.
That's fine.
Just Marty.
No, take it, no, take it.
Yeah.
What? Take it first.
For a roll call. Yes. Yes.
It just requires a waiver of the rules.
So, may I, Mr. Chair? Sure. So Marty, I had a Iroquois, I took that off.
Oh, you have the presentation of commendation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That, I already did that.
But what about the Richard Formica? These are under your,
Oh, I did not see that. Okay, my apologies. Thank you. So are our rules, we can only have one in-person commendation?
per meeting, unless you waive the rules. Yes.
Okay.
If it's not related to police, fire, or ATU unions.
I didn't know that. Okay,
Okay,
well.
these are new rules.
Yeah, no. Thank you for bringing that, because we obviously want to follow our rules.
Yeah,
Well,
we wanna follow
I
the rules,
was,
darling.
I was asked to do this, council, apparently on this day. It's his, retirement celebration, so they wanted it in council, so it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes.
I didn't want to waive rules for mine, I didn't make it.
I'll make the motion, obviously.
We have a motion to waive the rules. Motion from Councilman Vieira, second Councilman Carlson, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
And thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Motion carried with Hurtak and Henderson voting
Oh,
no.
and Clinton.
Wait a second, wait, excuse me?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we just made the rules.
We don't wanna waive the rules.
We just
Do we need
made
a
the rules.
supermajority?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I'll just tell TPD that we can, I'll have to get another date. That's fine.
Yeah, that would work.
All right, sounds good.
I have
Councilmember Henderson.
Yeah, just one more thing, and this is a special privilege, obviously. My niece walked in, and her, along with all the other freshmen getting ready to go off to college, Lillian, just want to say congratulations to you, headed to Albany State University in Albany, Georgia. So you walked in here, I guess you wanted me to, Sonia obviously wanted me to do that.
Just come up with.
But go to the podium, tell us where you're going, what you're majoring in. Your name. State your name for the record.
My name is Lillian Street, and I'm going to Albany State University in Georgia for nursing.
For nursing. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Motion to receive and file.
Okay, as a nurse, you're gonna have a lot of public speaking, so get used to this. You have a lot of public speaking in nursing
Can we get a
school.
second on motion to receive and file?
Before you do that.
Oh, you need one more, oh my God.
Yes,
high
what
maintenance
happens is,
tonight.
I apologize for council not informing you that, to remind you that waiver of the rules requires a supermajority, but you have your underlying motion that you had made previously is still there, so.
I'm sorry.
In other words, to add it.
Yeah, no, and by the way, again, that was a separate motion. And by the way, I can probably do it at his ceremony, that's fine. They just requested, I'm texting, somebody right now asking if I can just make it at his ceremony.
So why don't you do that motion, and then
So
you
you
could
was
always
just
amend
being
it if you have
nice.
to.
You could always,
Yeah.
Make the motion to offsite.
Yeah, so let me right now, I'll just do the motion next week. Let me, so that I don't have to do it twice. I'll just see when I'm gonna do it. Again, I'm sure it's not a big deal.
you have a motion that's already been made and passed. That was actually done.
Oh, okay,
That's
yes. Then according to that, then I hereby rescind my motion for the commendation on August 22nd. I'll see if we can fit it in another date or do it offsite.
All right, we have a motion to rescind from Councilman Vieira, second Councilman Clinton, all in favor? Aye. Can we get a motion to receive and file? Councilmember Henderson, do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Carlson, we're adjourned.